Hi, if you like the video, please remember to subscribe.
Hi, I'm Rob from robnunphoto.com, and today we're going to be having a look at the Kenro pop-up backgrounds and the associated stand that goes with them. And before we get started, let me just mention the model numbers because they're quite complicated and quite long. So we're going to be looking at the FELRB0378 stand, and then we're going to be looking at a black and a white pop-up background, the FEBD101 and the FEBD102. So if you're watching this and you want to have a quick look at them, put those numbers into Google and you'll find your local retailer who sells them. Now, you may be thinking, what do I need with a pop-up background? What do I need with the background altogether? The problem is pretty much what you see me behind me now, which is a busy background. If you're ever trying to do portrait photography or product photography, anything where you're really trying to concentrate the viewer's concentration, what they're looking at on the thing, whether it be the portrait or the product, a busy background is a really sure way of distracting them. Also, if you ever pick up any fashion photography magazine or photography magazine worth its salt, when you look at the adverts or you look at the portraits or you look at the editorials, chances are probably half of them will be maybe on location, or they might be environmental, where people are like in the situation where they work, or they might put models somewhere. But I guarantee, especially with fashion magazines, at least 50% of them will be against a plain or a almost plain background. It'll either be white or black or grey, or maybe it'll have a texture put onto it, these sorts of things. So having a plain background that you can utilise is really helpful, especially if you're like me, you're an amateur photographer and you haven't got much space, because in our little house, there aren't any plain walls. There's no wall that I can just paint white and use as a background. Every single wall has got mirrors on it, or pictures, or televisions, or chests of drawers. Everything is filled up. So if I want to do a portrait of, say, Oliver or Suzanne or anybody, it's very tricky because I've always got a busy background to work against, and so having some sort of backdrop would really help. Now, there's lots of different types of backdrops out there. You may well remember I've done the review of using and kind of a guide to using a projector screen as a white backdrop, which works very, very good, but it's quite heavy. It's quite small. It's only really good for headshots and head and shoulder shots, and being very, very white, you're pretty much stuck to doing white or slightly off-white, slightly grey background. You can't really darken it down that much. But the beauty with other types of backgrounds is you can choose whatever colour you want, and as you may well know, or will know, is the fact that if you choose, for example, a black background or a grey background, or even a white background that isn't quite so reflective, you can pretty make them any shade of grey you want. So you can take a grey background and make it black. You can take a black background and make it grey, etc. Simply by adjusting your exposure, especially if you're using off-camera flash, because you can use your flash to illuminate your subject, and then you can use which is then controlled by the power of the flash and the aperture, and then you can use your shutter speed of your camera to control the ambient light or the colour, the tone, if you like, of your background. Or you can do it with flashes. There's lots of ways of controlling what the background looks like. Now, personally speaking, what happened to me is I contacted Kenro and said, look, I want to try out one of your backgrounds. And I fancied one of the big ones, the ones where you build the frame and have it on. And I said, but yeah, if you haven't got any of them at the moment to lend out, send me a pop-up one. And they sent me some a couple of pop-up backgrounds and a stand. And so to be honest, to start off with, I was like, pop-up backgrounds, you kind of have this image in your head of kids' play tents, those things that you undo. For example, I've got a pop-up reflector. It works very well, but I thought, are they really going to be big enough? Is it really for me? I want the big thing. but I'm very happy to say that having got these backgrounds from Kenro, very, very pleased indeed to try them out and play with them. They are huge, very easy to put up. They've got a nice stand. Again, you can use Kenro stand, another stand, or you could just simply clip them or prop them up against things, and they're pretty effective as well. So what we'll do is sort of talk a little bit about the backgrounds and the stands, and then I'll put one up, and what I'll do is I'll set up my lights around it as well, my flashes, and kind of walk you around sort of what's going on, so you could see what maybe you could do with these backgrounds at home, to give you an idea of how useful they are, how small this room is. But by using a nice big plain background, we can isolate the subject, and you know, it could be anywhere. It could be in a studio or anything like that. And then at the end of the video, what you'll then see is some example shots. I think probably mainly of me, maybe some of Oliver if I can persuade him to do that. Kind of just showing you, you know, the possibilities of what these things are. So first up, let's have a look at the. So this is what the backgrounds come in. This is the white one, I think. Comes in a nice big, I guess that's some sort of polythene container to hold it into place. Now these are the pop-up ones. Now when this pops up, it's 2 meters high and 1.5 meters wide. So it's like a curved angle rectangle, which is pretty big. So it's like this high. You probably can't see my hands going above the frame, and then, you know, wide enough to do headshots, head and shoulders, right down to sort of above the feet. Obviously, if you put in some sort of like extra piece that went onto the floor, you could then do completely full length shots and stuff like that. But as you can see, I mean, it looks quite big in the video, but it is in fact pretty light. I will open it up in just a sec. And then kind of the associated stand that you could use with it is this one, which is the FELRB0378 stand. Very similar to a light stand, but more heavy duty. What we've got is on the bottom here, these sort of legs that kind of pop out. He says, trying to figure out how to do it the right way. That comes around there, that goes around there, like that. These are very heavy indeed. And then we've got the usual sort of things you undo to slide it up and down to change the height. You know, exactly the same thing you would get on a light stand. And then at the top and at the bottom, we've got these little jaws that you can open up. They're quite stiff to start off with, and they grip the metal band in the pop-up background to hold it in place. Nice and heavy. You could imagine, say, you were using this outside with a little bit of a breeze. I mean, it's not going to stir up in a strong wind, but a little bit of breeze, and this will hold it in place. Or if you're at home and you've got kids running around, or even in the studio, because although my reference to using these is at home, these would be perfect for a professional photographer in a studio, because you can set them up in the corner. If you're visiting people's houses to do portraits, you can pop them up, and they're very, very good. Now, I'm going to add a little caveat as well. Because these pop-up backgrounds are so large, the metal banding is pretty strong. And when they pop up, they do pop up pretty fast. So be careful where you're standing. If you're in a tight environment and you've got knickknacks and decorations and stuff around, hang on to it, because it will want to go boing and open up. And also, when you first get one of these, if you haven't used one before, putting them away can be a little bit of a challenge to start off with. You need a particular technique which basically involves grasping the edges, bringing them up over each other like that, and it folds itself into a figure of 8. But I guarantee that the first time you try and put one of these away, it will probably take you a couple of hours till you get the knack. But there's plenty of other videos on the internet that show you how to do it. I might have a go. I probably won't have enough space to be able to show it, because there's only me doing the video, so that would be quite tricky. So without further ado, let me get the background out. Now, what I really want to do is get the white background out. Let's see which one this one is. This is the white background, so I'm probably going to disappear behind a big pop-up thing in a second. Now, although this is a white background, the material, which is, it's a proper I think it's almost like a cotton material, is sort of a little bit see-through as well. You know, so what you could do is you could pop a flash behind it. You could also use it as a diffuser, and you could use it as a reflector. So as you can see, still pretty small. Now if the camera gets kicked over now, I'm carefully going to undo it. Right, it wants to go. Right, here we go. Oh, let me turn around. Right. So what? Look how huge this thing is. How brilliant is that? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pause the video and I'll set up this on a stand, and then we'll sort of have a little bit more of a chat, and then we'll have a tour of like a little bit of a home studio. So in our dining room. So just bear with me. Okay. Okay, there we go. So I've got my my big white backdrop set up. It's quite a bright day outside, so what I've also done is I put the black backdrop behind it just to stop any light coming through. And as you can hopefully see, yeah, I've got a nice white background. I should probably record my videos like this, shouldn't I? So you wouldn't have to look at either. I normally have the blinds in the background, don't they, or the garden. However, we're not talking about video here, we're talking about photography. So I've got a nice white background, or it could be the background, or they do lots of different colours over at Kenro. You can get painted backdrops. It's an art unto itself, the myriad of different things. However, remember, with a white background, by controlling the ambient light or the power on our flash, we can turn this grey, even all the way down to black in a dark room. And with the black one, we can turn it from black, and we can put a flash on it and make it brighter as well. With this white one, because you can kind of you could light it from behind. You could use it again as a big reflector. As you'll see in some of the examples at the end as well, you could gel your flash, or put coloured filters on your flash, which is a gel. Shine that on the background, and then you can produce a coloured background there as well, with halos and all sorts of special effects. So when we're thinking about using backgrounds such as this, especially a white background, what we really want to do is we want to try and get separation between your subject and the background. And one of the things that definitely gives away lack of separation is this shadow. So one of the things you probably want to try is, if you're in a limited space like I am here, where I'm pretty much against the background, I can come forward a little bit, like so probably. But what I want to light this background independently with a flash, so that it goes basically to pure white. That's what I really like in portraits, like a la Avedon, a la Bailey, and then you're lighting your subject separately. Now I have done a few videos on, in fact, I think I've done one video on lighting, not much. I'm no expert. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to kind of set up a lighting setup, if you like, that I will do in this room right now, and the sort of setup I've used for the example images you'll see at the end of the video, and just kind of walk you around kind of the different things we've got, so it maybe give you a little bit of inspiration to try it yourself, get yourself some nice pop-up backgrounds, and have some fun with your home or professional portrait photography. Okay, so I kind of set up my little home studio. So hopefully it'll give you an idea of what you could do with these pop-up backdrops. So what you should be able to see in the middle is the big pop-up background, of course, and then there's a light stand, and on top of the light stand, let me get the model for you, there's the YN565EX flash from Yongnuo. And what that flash, it's a really nice flash. And I've just got it so the sensor's facing this way, because that's going to pick up the flashes from the light from our other two flashes, and then trigger it to light our background. And if I just turn that around, you can probably see it's got a little red gel or filter on it just to red up the background. Not sure how well that'll work. Works very well on the black background. Not sure on the other stuff. So, and then what we have over here on the right hand side, up there, you should be able to see we've got another Yongnuo flash, I like Young Nuos, they're very cheap and they're pretty reliable. That's a 460 Mark II. Now that one is actually, it's got a radio transmitter on the bottom. It's got one of the JJC radio transmitters. So the idea is that if you kind of take a look, here's my 350D. Oh, got a bit of lens flare going on there. It's got the JJC transmitter on. When this fires, the camera fires, that fires over there as well. It's going into a shoot-through umbrella to diffuse the light to make it nice and soft, and then obviously it's on a light stand that way. I'm shooting in manual mode. Shutter speed is 200th a second, ISO is ISO 200, and I'm shooting at f8. Again, we're shooting in manual mode because to control the exposure, to control the flash exposure of my subject, I'm going to be using my aperture and obviously the flash power, and the background I could use the shutter speed if I was going off ambient, but I'm not going off ambient, so it's controlling that as well. Now, as I said, we've got that little flash in the middle. Now there's a third flash that you might just be able to see. Can you see I've put my pop-up reflector there as well to create some fill from, so the idea is that this light will come across and you'll get your main light sort of here, and you get a little bit of fill bouncing back here. Nice big bulldog. Can you see that flash there? Now that's a flash with a snoot on it. So let me just grab it. This is a 560, and 560 nice flash. And this has got the JDC radio trigger on it as well, so when our camera fires, it fires this one and this one at the same time, and then that one behind me gets fired optically. Now what the snoot does is it really angles the light in one direction, because what we're using this for is to create a bit of a rim light on, say, the subject's shoulders and back of the head, or really a hair light, just to separate them from the background. Not always really that necessary against a white background, but when you're especially against backgrounds with people with dark hair, they can kind of merge in, and a little bit of hair light just to separate them. Not too much, very 1980s, but can work well. And the way you kind of aim it is you kind of stand where you're going to look, where your subject's going to be, and look at the flash. Can you actually see it? So there we go. There's the 350D. Now, it's very, very easy when you're doing flash work to kind of hope you can see me because I can't see back in, to kind of overcompensate. In reality, what you see here is I've got probably too much stuff out, do I really need the hair light and the coloured filter? Not really. I've got my main and I've got my reflector, haven't I? I mean, I could use a flash to make this white or put it behind, but the idea of this is just to show you in this really compact room where there's hardly any space at all, by using a nice pop-up reflector and these ones are from Kenro, you can really get create photos that give the feeling that they were taken in a much larger studio, a much larger space, create a much more professional look. You've probably heard of Peter Hurley. If you haven't, look him up on the internet straight away. He does these amazing headshots. He gets paid thousands and thousands of dollars to take headshots of celebrities and actors and models. And all his work is basically against a white background. It's head and shoulders, always kind of landscape view. Bright background lit by a strobe. He has the foreground subject lit by constant lights, but you can recreate it with flashes or strobes as well. Very effective, very clean, very natural, and lots and lots of fun, because the essence of a snapshot is often the fact that it's got lots of other things in the photo that are distracting from the main subject. By using a pop-up background, we can make sure that we're really concentrating the viewer on what we're doing, and hopefully by demonstrating that today and showing you what you can do, is you may well be inspired to give it a go. Once again, many thanks to Kenro, who sent me the black and white pop-up backgrounds, the 2 metre by 1.5 metre ones, and the 2 metre high pop-up background support. Very good. Really enjoyed playing around with them, and they would be a great asset to any photographer, be it amateur or professional. Arsenal of kit. It's lightweight, it's easy to carry. Chuck it in the back of the car, and you've really got a very simple portable studio. Well, that's it from me. My name's Rob from rob9photo.com. Hope you've enjoyed the video, and what you'll see now is some example photos, probably mainly of me because Oliver's gone out. So don't be put off too much, but again, it's about the idea of showing you maybe what is possible, what you could do with some really value for money kit in a space that you probably wouldn't expect to be able to produce these kind of photographs. Well, thanks to Kenro, and thanks to you for watching. Cheers. See you next time.